Hey there, welcome back to Meet Your Demons, Feel Your Worth. This is Adriana coming back to you for our second lesson together in our first module, which for our first module, just as a quick recap, I left us with this working hypothesis that forms the underpinning of this entire series, which is the theory, like any good scientist, we want to test our theory that you are 100% whole, complete, sufficient, enough, and in inherent possession of Buddha nature or basic goodness, this fundamental worth that cannot be subtracted from or added to. It is essential and primary to who we are as human beings. So, of course, leaving us with this theory, with this working hypothesis, there's probably a good chance that the moment we take this on as a working theory is the moment that all of the evidence to the contrary comes bounding to the forefront. And this is so natural. It is so natural for us to take this on as a theory and then immediately in the microcosm say, but wait, how can I be basically good? I have all of these terrible qualities. I am lazy and I make bad decisions and I'm not a good friend at times. And, I procrastinate and I put things off. And how could I be basically good or basically okay the way that I am? Or maybe we look out to the macrocosm and say, yeah, right, basic goodness. Have you seen the world that we live in? It is an absolute trash fire. There are atrocities that are happening left and right. How is it possible that basic okayness and basic goodness exists? Or maybe we fall into the camp of feeling like basic goodness or basic enoughness, this inherent worth that we have, is a little bit of a cop out. Like, how are we going to be motivated to do more and to be more if we're already just fine the way that we are? Like, what's the incentive there? So, something that I want to recognize is that if any of these are your reaction in hearing this working hypothesis that you are basically whole, sufficient, enough, complete, dignified, and worthy as you are in really good company. And that is a part of this experiment, is knowing the moment we take this on as a theory is the moment we are going to encounter all of the evidence to the contrary. So this, of course, is where our demons come in. And in Buddhist mythology, Buddhist cosmology, our demons are talked about as being these unintegrated aspects of ourselves. Sometimes we might refer to this as being our shadow side. Our demons might be difficult emotions like anger or jealousy, shame, anxiety, self doubt, overwhelm. We can think of our demons as being our own personal neurotic thumbprint. The recognition that just by virtue of being human, sure, we're taking this on as a theory that we have basic goodness, but that we also have a lot of neurotic qualities just by virtue of being human. So it's frequently talked about these demons as being our obscurations, anything that obscures or covers up our basic goodness and our Buddha nature. If you want a kind of quick check as to what your personal demons might be, if you're not familiar with them already, we can just take a moment and ask ourselves, who do we become or what qualities spring to the forefront in the moments when we feel overwhelmed and under resourced? What are the qualities that come to the forefront? And for you, there's a good likelihood that it's not the best of who you are. I know that for myself, some of my more pronounced neurotic qualities are anger. I'm really quick to anger, hair trigger. That depression or shame is quick to bound to the forefront in moments of overwhelm or moments of feeling like I don't have enough resources. So for you, your demons, your own personal neurotic thumbprint, is anything that is obscuring this basic okayness or this Buddha nature. And we all have our tendencies, we all have our habits of mind. So, there are a number of different demon stories in Buddhist mythology that can give us a little bit more of a sense of what these demons are and how to work with them skillfully when we encounter them, both on the meditation cushion and in our daily life. And one of the stories that I connect to the strongest, it was the foundation for the book, Tea and Cake with Demons, is the story of Mara coming to town. And we've already established in the first lesson, Mara, of course, is the big baddie. He is the Lord of Delusion, the personification of any of these mental obscurations or confusion, deluded states of mind, anything again that obscures our Buddha nature. And Mara comes to town, and the Buddha's attendants, his monks, his arhats, catch wind of the fact that the Lord of Delusion is here looking for the Buddha. And so they freak out, understandably, I would too, and go running to warn the Buddha, hey, Mara's here, Mara's here, Mara's here. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And the attendants freaking out is actually the part of the story that I relate to the strongest, because I don't know about you, but I know that for myself, anytime that I encounter what I consider to be difficult emotions, my very kind of worst qualities, the kind of underbelly of who I am, any like shame or resentment or jealousy or comparison, you know what? I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel these things. I want them gone as quickly as possible with the least amount of effort. So, understandably, these monks launch into strategy. What are we going to do? The Lord of Delusion is here. And the Buddha opens the door. One of the monks offer, let's go on the attack. I know where Mara is. Mara doesn't know where we are. Let's get him. Let's fight. Let's fight Mara. Another one of the attendants offers the strategy, no way. Don't fight. Let's run. Let's hightail it. I'm just going to grab my begging bowl. Monks don't have a lot of possessions. Let's get out of town before Mara can figure out where we are. And another monk offers another strategy, which is, let's hide. We'll go underground. We'll stay very quiet. Mara will pass by, not even know that we were here. So this is a part of the story that I deeply relate to. I have many of my own strategies for working with my demons. You probably do too. Some of my favorite strategies that I've developed along the way are first and foremost good old-fashioned repression, where if I'm feeling something that's uncomfortable, like say resentment or anxiety or self-doubt, that my first impulse is just to bury it. Just tamp it down, tamp it way, way down. Maybe like pour some chocolate on it, some Netflix, and then that's great. Now I never have to feel it. Now I never have to feel this thing. So that works temporarily, but of course, as human beings, these demons, these confused states of mind, anything that covers up our basic goodness is bound to come back up to the forefront. So, second strategy that is an old favorite of mine is the emotional hot potato, where it's kind of like, I'm feeling this thing, it's really uncomfortable. Here, you take it. I don't want it. You feel it. And then at least we're feeling it together and I'm not alone in this. And I will usually throw that hot potato at people that I decide are responsible for the way that I'm feeling, anybody who is implicated in the situation, or even just loved ones who are close by in my proximity. Because, of course, I know the people who love me the most are never going to leave, no matter how much of my own kind of demon material I throw out at them. And then the third strategy, which is probably my favorite because I can psychoanalyze anything to a pulp, is the old strategy of if I can figure it out, then I don't have to feel it. And it usually goes like this. Okay, I'm feeling a lot of overwhelm. I'm incredibly anxious. So what am I going to do about it? Who else is involved in the situation? Where is this coming from? How does this somehow root back to my childhood? Because of course it always does, or at least that's what my therapist says. Okay, I figured it out. I figured it out. Here's how I'm going to fix it. And you know what? Nice and tidy. Now I don't have to feel it because I figured it out. And for you, you might have some of the same strategies for working with your demons, your confused states of mind, your difficult emotions, maybe some of the same strategies, maybe some other ones. My favorite part of this story is what the Buddha does next because it is altogether completely radical and it basically wipes these strategies away, which is that he says, "Oh, Mara's here. Okay, well, go get him. Go get him, bring him to my door, and set out my finest china. Set out my finest tea set, and invite Mara in for tea, not as my enemy, but as my esteemed guest." And he invites his demon in for tea. And I think this is such a beautiful and altogether different approach because it isn't about fighting, it isn't about fixing, it isn't about even struggling to understand what our demons are, where they're coming from. It's about beginning to develop a working relationship with our own confusion. So, going back to the story of Shitu, the Zen master, from lesson number 1, anytime that we think that we can skip over or sort of bypass who we are as human beings, our humanity, the wholeness of who we are, we're just applying a strategy. And these strategies, unfortunately, don't work long term. They probably work short term, which is why we have adopted them, but they don't work long term. So, how do we work with our demons in a skillful and sustainable way? This is a really great question and something that we are going to be talking more about in our third lesson together. But first, I just want to leave us with a quick contemplation, something to consider before we move on to lesson number 3, which is this question. What comes bounding to the surface in the moments when you feel the most overwhelmed or the most under-resourced? What comes bounding to the surface when you feel the most overwhelmed or under-resourced? That is probably a good indication of your personal demon material, what it is that obscures your sense of basic goodness, Buddha nature, inherent worth, inherent wholeness. And it's exactly what we're going to be working with in the modules going forward. So take a moment just to consider that, maybe even pen to paper, and we will see you in the next lesson.